Welcome to Undercrag City. In this video, I'm going to continue working my way up Undercrag Mountain, installing a gigantic carving of a dragon. I'll show you how I took a cheap, horrible toy dragon, destroyed it, rebuilt it, sculpted it into the mountainside, and turned it to stone. I'll add it into the main model, add a little door for scale, and finally finish it off with texture and ink washes. So here's the toy. This has been sitting in my cupboard for years. I picked it up at a cheap shop somewhere. It's made from horrible rubbery plastic, and I never intended to do anything with it except to mod it into something else. I'm starting by severing the wings. I want to keep these. Don't need the rear legs. Away they go. And the front legs too. You can see how easily the knife is slicing through this cheap plastic. I'll cut the spines away for good measure as well. I've got a shape in mind for the dragon, it's just a question of where should I cut it. If I was modifying a miniature like this for wargaming or role-playing, I'd approach it a bit more carefully. But there's no need in this case. I'm going to pin the pieces back together with some bendy wire, so I can play around with this until I'm happy. Blob of superglue helps to keep the wire in. It's not very elegant, but it's good enough for what I need. First I get the head in place. A little bit of help from some pliers. And now I'll think about the wings. If you're enjoying watching this video, please give it a like. It'll help it get seen by more people. And please also leave comments and questions below. I really enjoy receiving them, and I answer every single one. So there's my basic shape. Now to figure out how to turn it into a mountainside. This is my usual thick black card that I've used extensively throughout Undercrag City. I've marked out what I need, and now I'm measuring to remove the offcut so that it remains square and is more useful for future work. Happy with that? Let's get a foundation in place. Generous amount of PVA, das clay, and then some super glue, just to give a nice rigid hold while everything dries, and so that I can sculpt further. building this up a blob at a time and not worrying about detail. Again, if this was going to be a standalone miniature of a dragon and not a stone sculpture, I'd be using green stuff or other epoxies. As it is, I don't need to. If this looks rough, it's all the better. It's supposed to be carved from a mountainside after all. I'm using a mixture of PVA with a very small amount of clay here to create a paste. This just helps me to fill the mold lines without losing too much detail. As the model dries and hardens, I add a little bit more and a little bit more. Finally, I'm sculpting my rock shapes using a brush and PVA. PVA keeps everything malleable, stops it cracking, whereas water would just make everything so wet it'd never dry or it'd fall apart. That's a good start. Now a dark grey undercoat. This grey is found everywhere in Undercrag City. The walls, the roads, the cliff. Once that's dry, highlighting. Generous, heavy dry brushing with light grey. And then white. Here's the space it's going into. But before I get round to that, I need to do some work on the landscape. I've been wanting to build up this hillside for some time. There's Westwatch Tower and the houses of Chapel View. It's now a matter of linking them all together and bringing the road around and up to the undergate. I'm creating some flat surfaces for myself to work on here. This piece of black foam card will become the road, and I've carved some stairs out of some yellow foam. When I'm happy with the shape of my road, I'm peeling the paper off one side of the foam board. Now I need some more steps. I'm cutting a wedge to about the right shape slightly larger than I need. And then one step at a time, from the top down, I start to cut. Vertically, then horizontally. When the shape's right, I draw in the stonework with a good old-fashioned pencil. Remembering to notch the front edges. And now the road. This technique has been repeated many, many times. PVA on my foundations, and in we go with the road. And the steps. The spaces that are left will have more houses in them. But I'm not ready for that yet. The road and the large stair are far wider than they need to be. I intend to sculpt over parts of them later on. They'll get quite narrow eventually. But for now, my framework is in place. And I've still got access under these pieces to bring wiring through for LEDs. So now it's time to add the same dark grey as I showed you on the dragon. And the same highlighting too. You can see I've also slightly overlapped onto work I've done before. This is normal. In fact, there are parts of Undercrag City that have been painted 6 or 7 times now. When the highlighting's dry, everything gets a very thin black wash. 1 part black ink, 16 parts water. There's a bit of a gap at the end there. I'll need to deal with that later. So now in with the dragon. I want it to lean slightly out of the mountain, but takes a few attempts to get it right. Once it's in place, I'm sculpting in the join between the dragon and the rest of the model with more clay and PVA. I want the join between the dragon and the mountain to be organic. I don't want it to look too crisp. More grey paint. And I've added a coat of sand for some texture. That's also getting painted grey. While that's drying, a little door. This is a simple piece of balsa wood, with planks drawn in by hand with a pencil. I've shown my painting technique for timberwork many times in these videos. And here we go with a little hardware. 3 tiny strips of thin black card. A little bit of silver paint. Not a full perfect covering either. Then a touch of rust ink. And that's just going to sit in that little gap. It's all been sculpted together, painted and dry brushed, and now here's my black wash again. While the black's wet, I add green to my mossy, sandy texture. And wash that out with yellow. The green, the yellow and the black combine to give different tones and add a lot of visual interest to the rock face. And there we are. There's plenty more to do to this mountainside, but I think the dragon is a great start. I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and I hope to see you next time. Bye for now.